Well, everybody, the woke mob did it again. This woman simply wrote a paper saying that her transgender professor is satanic and being controlled by Satan, and she got a 0 on her paper. The Turning Point USA chapter for Oklahoma literally calls the professor mentally ill in their post here. This story has been blowing up a little bit. This probably isn't the first time you've heard about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the actual paper. Well, I copy and pasted the paper, so it's not the paper itself, but the full text of it was available. Actually, I couldn't copy and paste it because it was a photograph. I had to type the entire thing out. I've tried to find as much detail as I could, and sadly, there is still a little bit of information missing. So these are some screenshots from the actual assignment from whatever they use for their college system. There was an article that the kids had to read. I don't know what the specific article was because I haven't been able to find any links to it. And they had to write a paper, and it was worth 25 points. This is how you get the points for it. Does the paper show a clear tie-in to the assigned article? That's 10 of the points. Does the paper present a thoughtful reaction or response to the article rather than a summary of the article? Another 10 points, and then 5 points for it being clearly written. Now, I highly doubt this is all of it because I don't think it would just be these two things. I feel like Toilet Paper USA probably selectively picked these two so that they could make the case that the girl deserved some points. Because the only two stipulations are a discussion of why you feel the topic is important and worthy of study or not worthy of study, and an application of the study or results to your own experience. So that being said, we'll go through the article. Now, I will say a couple of things. I've seen this story has popped up a whole bunch of times on different platforms for me. And people are saying she didn't even reach the word threshold. That is not true. This is the entire thing, and it is 742 words. People were saying it was written like at a middle school reading level. I copy and pasted the entire body of the text into a few different grade level analyzers. And I did it on several different ones, and I got between 10th grade and 11th grade. And honestly, even for college kids, you got to take that. You wouldn't believe how bad people are at writing. People are saying it's full of grammatical errors. It really doesn't have very many grammatical errors. I mean, you can see, I use, you can't really see it because it's cropped, but I use Grammarly Pro because I do a lot of writing. And yeah, I mean, there are a few things, but trust me, most people, includes most of you, aren't as good at writing as you think you probably are. So there are things being said about it that just are not true. But there are things being said about it that are 100% true, like that it has not a single citation. That's absolutely true, at least based on the availability of the text that we've been shown. And you can see this is apparently the entire paper right here, plus the professor's comments on it, and then an additional professor's comments on it. This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. So yeah, we should have hyphens there, and then it's too wordy. This whole "and the role it plays in our society." You just don't need that. It should just say, to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender in our society. The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. I know we're supposed to say that bullying isn't okay and boys will be boys is not an excuse, but I'm actually pretty against the extremely hardline efforts to bubble wrap everything and be helicopter parents and bulldozer parents and to bulldozer the environment as well. It's a nuanced thing. Not all teasing is necessarily bullying, and not all teasing is bad. There are some cultures, I think these are Khoisan tribes in Africa, where they live basically not necessarily as hunter-gatherers, more like hunter-pastoralists or hunter-horticulturalists. But the men go out and they hunt, and when they bring a kill back home, the entire village mocks them and said, oh, great, you brought enough food for maybe 3 people and stuff like that. They get teased about it. And what the purpose of that is actually to combat toxic masculinity. I'm actually not even joking. That sort of is the point, because it keeps pride down. And for this group of people at least, what they found is ego checking people basically makes it so there's more harmony and you don't get the risk of like a strong man coming in there and trying to, impose his will on people. Some of the most important lessons that I learned when I was a kid, and I can remember some of them pretty vividly, were examples of me being absolutely humiliated by peers or parents or teachers or somebody over something I did that I shouldn't have done. All right, well, now that I've pissed off a certain subgroup of people, let's keep going. So this is the only part of the assignment or essay thing that the student wrote that's even remotely appropriate to the assignment. The rest of this is just a terrible rant about her personal religious feelings. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. God is very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. That's just literally what a stereotype is, though. To say that males and females are this exact thing as ordained by what my religion says, and you can't go outside of that, is not a stereotype. You don't know what you're talking about. Women naturally want to do womanly things, whatever the hell those are, because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women different than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. There should be a comma there. Look, you hear this kind of thing quite a lot from conservative Christians and trad people, but I've never heard anybody say that God created women in his image of beauty. That's a new one. And you know what's actually really hilarious about this? That Turning Point USA went out of their way to do this. I'm actually... You know what Charlie would have said? Charlie would have said, whoa. College is a scam. Women shouldn't be getting an education or working at all in the first place. So the problem here is that you're a woman in college. Well, it's not 100% true, because Charlie did say that women should be able to go to college to find a husband. He supported the idea of, I don't remember what it was called, and I'm not looking it up, but sort of like the idea of like women could get a degree that's almost like a home ec degree or something. And then, yeah, so you could learn to be a housemaker and then hopefully meet your husband. So it's just strange that Turning Point USA is standing up for this, because according to Turning Point USA, or at least according to Charlie, she pretty much shouldn't even be there in the first place. Nobody should, because college is a scam. It is deeply frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmate of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion. So they should not step on people's toes. The grammar here is absolutely horrible. This just needs to be rewritten. And she doesn't seem to be all that English fluent. Mundane opinion? No, Samantha, the radical lefties, the social reconstructivists, just by definition, they do not have mundane opinions. These are radical opinions. Your opinion is the mundane one. Like you went out of your way to say, no. It's actually super, super simple. God created man and woman, man for strength and whatever, woman for beauty. Like, your opinion is the mundane opinion, Samantha. Also, hilariously ironic, this idea of so they don't step on people's toes. Now, I'm not speaking for Samantha because I have no idea what Samantha thinks, but all these organizations that are going so much out of their way to, condemn this and be happy that, by the way, the professor was put on academic leave while they study if there was actually a civil rights violation because she complained to the university that she got 0 points because she's being discriminated for being a Christian, essentially. But anyway, these are the people that are like, no, that woman that called that 6-year-old child the N-word, we need to give her millions of dollars. We're so against cancel culture. Yet, when it came to Charlie, and when it comes to things like Israel or whatever, then they're just going out of their way. I mean, they're the biggest cancel culture people in the country currently. They have tried so hard to get people removed from positions for doing and saying things that they don't like. None of which is illegal, just stuff that they don't like. Although with the Israel thing, they are literally changing the laws and actually have successfully changed the laws to say that certain mundane things that you can say are now anti-Semitic. 2 things real quick. 1, in the spirit of Black Friday, for the next 2 weeks, my entire store is 15% off. Also, I created a ton of new designs, and you can now get new t-shirts in sizes from small to 3XL and in up to 8 different colors. Click the link in the description to check that out. But anyways, I think that is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It is important to use the freedom of speech we have been given in this country, and I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental as it pulls us further from God's original plan for humans. Never mind how just childishly shallow and stupid that is, and how she's just so self-unaware that this is just her own personal religious bias and that other religions don't have the same kind of bias, and so you can't claim yours is better in any ways, except to just appeal to the religious bigotry that yours is the only true one. Look at how disconnected these thoughts are. I firmly believe that we should use freedom of speech and shouldn't really necessarily worry about how we're going to hurt people's feelings, which is why eliminating gender would be detrimental. Those 2 things have nothing to do with each other. It is perfectly normal for kids to follow gender stereotypes because that is how God made us, crying out loud. And you know what? That transgender, radical, leftist professor, I don't know why I'm doing this because they are transgender, but they in their commentary, they specifically say, hey, acknowledging gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, which is a nuance expressed in the article. The reason so many girls want to feel womanly and care for others in a motherly way is not because they feel pressure to fit into social norms. It is because God created and chose them to reflect His beauty and His compassion in that way. 2 things can be true. You can believe that God created us that way, but the first sentence is still true even if that's true. Literally, by reading this essay, I can tell that this person wants to put social pressure on men and women and make them conform to her ideas about what gender norms are supposed to be. So it absolutely is because that they feel pressure to fit those social norms, according to you. Here you're just telling us why you have that particular bias. In Genesis, God says that it is not good for man to be alone. So He created a helper for man, which is a woman. Like most Christians, Samantha hasn't even cracked open the Bible one time, apparently. No, God in His infinite wisdom creates Adam and then realizes, he's lonely. So then God creates a bunch of animals for Adam, but none of those animals work. So then God creates Eve out of a piece of Adam. Now, you know what's incredible about that? Is it's really hard to read that and not think that Adam was fucking the animals. I mean, really. According to the trad view of what a woman is for, and a woman basically is an extended uterus. There's really nothing else about a woman. Again, in the trad view. And so if the woman is the helper for Adam, then what were the animals not satisfying Adam with in the beginning? It's also hilarious, the idea that, you could ask somebody, did God create Adam with cock and balls? Yes. Why? Because there was no Eve. So what the hell does he have cock and balls for? I mean, I get that the dude's got to take a leak, but there's absolutely no reason to have the balls. So God creates Adam with reproductive organs, even though God has not created the female yet. I could go on about that, but I think we'll leave it there. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to women. However, the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo. I don't know if I said that right or not. And that directly translates to helper equal to. Now, I looked into this, not like a ton, but I saw multiple different sources that actually were affirming this idea, which is interesting. And this idea that that language is also used, God uses that language for himself too, that appears to be true. Now, what I find interesting about this is, and by interesting, it's not all that interesting, because again, Samantha comes across as somebody who's either never cracked open the Bible or has only skimmed it to find things to reaffirm an idea she has. Like, it literally says, right after Eve is created, your job is to be subordinate to your husband. There's no equality there. And the New Testament is not gender equal at all. It's actually, well, I wouldn't say it's worse. The New Testament's a little worse than what you find in Genesis, but it's absolutely nowhere near as bad as you can just murder women for lying about being virgins. No penalty like that exists for men. I mean, women are just treated as property of either their husbands or their fathers, and they're treated like shit. They're passed on as a product. If you kill a woman or if you rape a woman or whatever, you just have to pay a fine that's a little bit more than what a slave fine is. So we don't really need to labor over that too much more. This shows the importance God places on the role of the helper. Women's roles. God does not view women as less significant than men. No, yeah, he absolutely does. In literally everywhere except arguably for that one passage, God absolutely does. He created us with such intentionally and care. So I did make sure to copy and paste this faithfully. Yes, she wrote intentionally, should be intentionality, whatever. With such that and care. And he made woman in his image, and yes, she did not capitalize his in that case, of being a helper and in the image of his beauty. That's just more repeating herself. I don't really have anything to say there. If leaning into that role means I am following gender stereotypes, should be a comma, then I am happy to be following a stereotype that aligns with the gifts and abilities God gave me as a woman. Yeah, I mean, this just sounds like, oh, well, if calling people the N-word makes me a racist, then I guess I'm a racist. And then the room erupts with applause. I do not think men and women are pressured to be more masculine or more feminine. Yes, you do. Like you argue that they should be pressured to be more like the gender roles that you think there are. I strongly disagree with the idea from the article that encouraging acceptance of diverse gender expressions could improve students' confidence. I don't know what you could possibly argue or how you could argue against that. I can grant you that you think that if we blow up traditional gender norms, that will be bad for society in whatever way. I'll just grant you your own logic of that. This doesn't follow from that at all. I think that you should be a certain way. And if you choose to act in a way that I don't approve of, I am going to stigmatize you about that. And it will have no effect on your confidence. Really? You think You think that that will have no effect? Society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders. So like we can stop right there. The paper is an absolute contradiction, which is something the professor points out somewhere in here. They say you just contradicted yourself in your own paper. I mean, that's right here. You argue that abiding by normative gender roles is beneficial. It is perfectly fine to believe this. But to then say that everyone should act the same while also saying that people aren't pressured into gender expectations is contradictory, especially since your arguments reflect a religious pressure to act in gender stereotypical ways. Yes, said much better than the way I said it. But anyways, society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic and severely harms American youth. I think this might actually be the most important point to make about all of this. It's the strongest point to make about the professor's professionality. Because at least as far as what's been reported to us, the professor themselves is transgender, and they didn't make it about them. Like, the student just said that their own professor is pushing Satan's lies. And it's something that I am making sure that I don't forget is, yes, I find these beliefs to be absolutely childish and stupid, but we need to keep in mind that according to them, if there is such a thing as Satan, there's nothing worse than that. And so to accuse your teacher of peddling Satan's lies, there is no worse accusation. Nothing. Now, nobody really thinks that way, except for the most severely disturbed fundies in our country. I do not want kids teased or bullied in school. You sure about that? You sure about that? However, pushing the lie that everyone has their own truth and everyone can do whatever they want and be whoever they want is not biblical whatsoever. I mean, yeah, Samantha, just apply this to yourself. Why do you get to go and get an education and enter the workforce, which was illegal in this country not even that long ago? The Bible says that our lives are not our own, but that our lives and bodies belong to the Lord for His glory. This is, what do you have to do to people? What do you have to tell people to get them to just embrace this kind of like slavery like this? It's so disturbing to me. I live my life based on this truth and firmly believe that there would be fewer gender issues and insecurities in children if they were raised knowing that they do not belong to themselves, but they belong to the Lord. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Again with the contradictions. I don't think anybody is pressured. Oh, by the way, everybody needs to follow my religion, and we would be better if we did that. I don't think supporting people's identities would have any effect on their confidence. The real reason we have insecurities is because people don't follow my religion. Overall, reading articles such as this one encourages me to one day raise my own children knowing that they have a heavenly Father who loves them and cherishes them deeply, and that having their identity firmly rooted in who He is will give them the satisfaction and acceptance that the world can never provide for them. So the world is incapable of providing people with satisfaction and acceptance, but we don't have problems with the way we treat people in society at the same time. My prayer for the world, and specifically for American society and youth, that should either be a parenthetical or in commas, is that they would not believe the lies spread from Satan that make them believe they are better off as another gender than what God made them. I pray that they feel God's love and acceptance as who He originally created them to be. So you can pause to check this out if you want to, but this was the professor's feedback, and they were just pretty clear that the reason you're not getting points for this is because your essay, or whatever, your reaction paper, I think they called it, has absolutely zero citations. It's not relevant to any of the literature at all, apart from the first 2 sentences. And I mean, the thing about her comments being extremely offensive, like, is it fair to take points away for that? I don't know. Maybe TPUSA should do like an undercover investigation and have a student submit a paper that says we should kill all white people. And if they get points for it, then there's a clear bias there. And then, a different professor, they just essentially agreed with the professor. Now, what some people have said is, why didn't they get at least 5 points or some of the 5 points for writing a clearly written paper? And why did they lose any of the other points when, if we look at 1 and 2 down here, the student clearly did make it about their own experience? Well, I don't know. I mean, as a teacher, the way you grade is totally subjective. Like, if this student had produced the most grammatically solid and beyond the minimum word requirement paper about Trump sucking horsecock that's ever been written, well, that's not what the assignment was. So I can see I'm not giving you the points, even though you did write a paper that is clearly written, and that was one of the requirements. Because it's not in line with the actual assignment, I'm not giving you any points. That's just a nitpicky thing that the teacher has the latitude to do, I feel. But I mean, 1 and 2 here, I mean, I could see maybe myself giving them 1 point, maybe from each of them, because there was, like, at the very beginning of the paper and then toward the end, they mentioned the article. And so I'd be like, look, I can't say you did 0 mentioning the article, but even 10% is super generous. It's more like I'd give them 1/10 of a point, but that I don't think they do 1/10 of a point. It's pretty clear that the student just didn't do the assignment, like, at all. This is like if you were doing a kinesiology class and the teacher is like, okay, I need you to record yourself shooting 10 free throws and then change your technique and then record yourself shooting 10 more free throws. And then a student was like, well, in my culture, we actually don't really play a lot of basketball. We play more hockey. So I recorded myself shooting 10 free throws, and then I shot some hockey pucks into a net afterward. And it's my culture, so you can't punish me for it. And then they give them a 0 because that's not the assignment. Oh, my culture is being discriminated against. No. So anyways, you judge for yourself. Have fun arguing in the comments section. You'll see me tomorrow. This video and all my videos is on my Patreon, ad-free, and you can get a free copy of my first book by being a member too. Plus, your name will appear in the end credits. Thank you.